Thank you for giving this opportunity, and I would like to congratulate IWST for carrying out this event. We have been hearing about certification, sustainability, the standard, the processes, how India has started the journey, where we are in terms of our forest certification, what are the schemes right now. So there is a lot of knowledge which is there already in the forum. And within India, we know that somewhere in 2007, when we started, the first FSC certification for Ambadi plantation. So we are carrying the legacy, either in form of PEFC through NCCF or, other certification, but the number has grown significantly. Now, my purpose of delivering this session is to demystify that what is certification, what is sustainability? Are we really getting confused over there? What is sustainability? Sustainability is an ocean which talks about with new parameters in line of economic, social, and environmental aspect. And today you might have heard about the new jargons which are there in the global market, which is ESG. A lot of companies are looking forward to work along with those companies who are quite predominant, and they are taking voluntary action in line of ESG, that is environmental, social, and governance framework. And in next 15 minutes, what I will going to deliver, what are the things happening around the world around sustainability? What role does certification play in terms of sustainability? As I said, we started this journey in 2007, so it's almost like 15 years now. What we need to think, what are the challenges the industry is facing right now, and how we have to take it forward. So that is the crux of this presentation today. Before I start, we all can make a sense that COVID-19 has strongly impacted the global production network, be it for any sector. And we impressed a sense of urgency of government and internationally operating enterprises to reevaluate their approaches towards ensuring sustainability in their supply chain. So this seismic event has offered an opportunity for us to rethink, establish some practices, consider sustainability as core value creator, and link long-term recovery strategies as guiding principle and objective under the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Now, I would like to share some numbers with you. And this is something which is very significant. Why there is a buzz in the market? There are approximately, if you could see this particular slide and this particular map in front of you, there are 400 and plus sustainability reporting instrument in 70 plus countries right now. Let me clarify, I'm not talking about certification here. I'm only talking about sustainability reporting instrument. That means everything which talks about environmental, social, and governance aspect of any process, any unit, any manufacturing, or any supply chain. Out of it, 65% are mandatory. And what is happening there? It is there with the 64% of the world's biggest economy. So if you could see in America, you see in Australia, you see Europe, they are the ones who are leading these initiatives, and they are part of the global value chain. So what they're asking, in this sustainability framework, they're asking about the disclosures, how the organization or the corporate or the enterprises are working on environmental, social, governance, and economic frameworks. And then, there are certain areas where they are mandatorily doing that. So let me tell you, within India, SEBI has started the mandatory sustainability reporting, which we all call it as BRSR, that is business responsibility and sustainability reporting, but it is limited to certain listed companies only at this point of time. Now, what is the buzz? That there is a framework, there are a lot of mandatory framework in terms of capturing the sustainability, but at the same time, if we see the investment trends, what is happening, the total asset of sustainable funds is nearly 550 billion USD somewhere in 2018. Now, if we account in 2020 December, it was finally accounted as 1.6 trillion. So you can imagine that there was an increase of 200% over a CGAR of 45%. Now, what is happening? Why is it so? Because companies across the world are asking to work with those suppliers, those firms or enterprises who are reporting under their ESG framework. And if you could see the slide in front of you, these are certain framework which my co-speaker, Dr. Kulkarni, has also highlighted that ITC is working on the GRI reporting. But this presentation talks about that there are other sustainability frameworks like integrated report, IFC reports, GHG accounting protocol, CDP protocol, ISO reporting frameworks, Dow Jones framework, where companies, organizations report on their sustainability. Now, taking forward, these are the measures. There is an economy which is moving towards sustainable economy right now. There are certain framework that we need to look upon in order to call it as holistic movement towards sustainability. And also, there was a recent survey which was being done, and it clearly states that 87% of the companies across the world will going to invest in next 2 years to make our supply chain more resilient. So you can imagine that, the kind of fundings which will going to float in line of ESG framework, or you call it as a sustainability framework, which will more going to highlight on three different topics which are there in front of you. Innovation and safer supply chain, where we are talking about increased supply resilience, faster access to the critical supply, higher focus on operational sustainability. Here I'm talking about operational sustainability in terms of enterprises, the plywood industry, the timber industry, forest-based industry, end-to-end traceability. Now, when I talk about end-to-end traceability, there is the area where the certification falls. Then technology and innovation. Moving towards the Paris Agreement, in line of Paris Agreement, in line of COP26, we have to work towards low carbon society. So ESG disclosure, emission reduction strategies in the operations are important for the enterprises, even for the forestry sector, and how we take into account the controls with respect to health and safety risk, because at this point of time of the pandemic, this is something that really needs to be looked upon. So these are the areas where we are looking across the world as part of the ESG framework. Now, when we look into the Sustainable Development Goals, and there are 17 Sustainable Development Goals which we all know. But when we talk about that, what is the right way to move forward, something which comes out of us, which is very much linked to the forestry sector. These are some of the SDGs which are directly and indirectly related to the practices which we follow within the forest-based industry and the forestry sectors in India. And if you see the SDG 15, which clearly talks about that protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystem, sustainably manage forest, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation and halt biodiversity loss. So this is an area where our ministry or the forest department can work and ensure that we are aligned to the SDGs over here. And these are the global commitments which are being taken forward. Now, apart from this entire ocean of sustainability, when we talk about environment, social, and governance as in a holistic approach, there is a place where we call as traceability. When we talk about the forest products, we have been discussing, in the first speaker has spoken about FSC, PFC, and then there are some regional specific, forest certification schemes. But we need to question one thing in our mind. When we talk about any of the certification scheme, and when we look at from the manufacturer perspective, is it a sustainable certification scheme or it is a traceability scheme? So that is the first question we need to keep into our mind. But when we get into the agroforestry mode, or when we get into the forest management mode, uh, which scheme is talking about agroforestry? Is FSC is the answer, or is PFC is the answer? The second thing is that if we are talking about forest management system, that what are the aspects which are very content specific, the country specific, when we talk about FSC, or for that matter of PFC, which is taken care by NCCF. These are some of the certification schemes which are well taken off across the world, and there are regional schemes also. Let's take a look. This is a part or a tool to process the sustainability across the world, but not sustainability as is. So that's the statement to demystify that the global value chain is a link between the trade expansion and the development. So the trade needs a complementary tool, the voluntary standard certifications. So these are the voluntary sustainability standard certification which empower the developing country to effectively use your global value chain. Now, if you see this particular slide in front of your screen, this is the global data which talks about FSC and PFC. They certify across, almost 11% of the total global forest area. And here, this is the data which has been recorded in 2019, which states that 426 million hectare of the land is certified both by FSC and PFC. PFC takes the largest stake, whereas FSC has only 200 million hectares of the land of the forest which is being certified. Now, if you look into the country-specific domain, who are the major players here? Canada, Russia, and US, which accounts 60% of the world's certified forest area. So you can imagine that, which are the countries who are opting for these procedures. Procedures of forest certification for these countries, is it same with that of India? We need to question ourselves. If not, then of course we have to relook into the certification activities, how we have to facilitate this entire process in order to develop the country specific schemes. And also to tell you that these are not the regulatory certification schemes. These are the voluntary certification schemes which are developed by the NGOs like FSC, or we talk for that matter of PEFC. So these are the certification where we need to think that, are we talking about holistic sustainable development, or are we limited to the traceability which is in line of voluntary standard certification schemes under FSC or PFC. I have been working in this sector for almost like 13 years, and I've worked across different domains. I worked with the producers also. I worked closely with the manufacturer also. I worked along with the NGOs also, and I worked along with the consumer side also. So I carry all different perspective to think about that what we have done in next 15 years, when we have already started this FSC schemes in India, or the certification schemes in India.